Hello again, welcome back. We're day 2 of this Smart Cities Expo World Congress. Now, time to introduce you to a really stellar panel. It's going to be moderated by Emilia Saiz. The name of this discussion is Smart Cities and Territories, Pillars of the Common Agenda. So I reckon that we're going to get some explanation as to what exactly that means from our guest. Emilia Saiz is our moderator. Let's welcome her. And on her panel, we have Mohamed Boudra, President, United Cities and Local Government from Morocco. We have Thembisile Nkadimeng, who's Deputy Minister of Cooperative Affairs from the Government of South Africa. Carola Gunnarsson, Mayor of Sala, Sweden. Welcome, welcome. Gissela Chalá Reinoso, Deputy Mayor of Quito in Ecuador. And Vrbanovic, Mayor of Kitchener in Canada. Hello, welcome, hi. And Souad Abderrahim, Mayor of Tunis in Tunisia. Thank you very much indeed. So I told you this is a stellar panel. So over to you, Emilia, and I'll see you in about an hour.
Thank you very much. I know we are pressed with time, and we are really delighted to be here with you. United Cities and Local Governments is a worldwide organization of cities, towns, regional governments. And today I have with me the representation of our leadership. And we are here within the Smart City Expo and the Congress to share with you our vision for the future, how we see that local and regional governments can actually influence the future and can be significant allies for shaping global agendas. And United Cities and Local Governments represents a very diverse reality. We are a global organization in over 170 countries with 250,000 members around the world. So we all live and breathe and talk different languages daily, but there is a common thing that unites us and is servicing the citizens, servicing the communities. Today, my leadership is going to share with you their vision. What is the priority? We know that the world has changed, that nothing will be ever the same, that digitalization is taking a different space, both in our daily lives and in public decision-making than we used to have. And we want to talk to you about what makes local and regional governments smart. So let me start with you, President. Welcome. President Mohamed Boudra. What do you think are the critical issues that we need to look at? Give us a little bit of a frame for this session.
Merci, Emilia. Tout d'abord, je vais parler en français. Excusez-moi de parler en français. Donc, je donne le temps pour qu'elle mette les appareils de traduction. Tout d'abord, je suis très content de participer dans cette plénière sur les villes et territoires intelligents, les piliers de l'agenda commun. Donc, je remercie aussi nos partenaires du Congrès mondial Smart City Expo pour partager leur espace avec nous et d'amener le mouvement municipaliste au grand débat sur l'avenir des villes intelligentes, sur le bien fondé de la technologie dans tous les domaines de notre vie. Ce n'est pas une question nouvelle. Nous avons déjà commencé à utiliser la technologie depuis longtemps, mais ceci s'est accentué avec la pandémie. Donc, une part importante de nos offres durant cette pandémie des services locaux est devenue entièrement numérique. On a un temps record. De nombreux endroits du monde, nous avons dû aider des personnes âgées à utiliser les technologies pour qu'il n'y ait pas encore de disparité, parce que la technologie peut mettre des gens de côté. Il faut imaginer des régions rurales où il n'y a pas d'Internet, même pas il n'y a pas l'Internet. Donc, nous avons dû donc aider et distribuer du matériel informatique, éduquant les enfants et les adultes pour l'enseignement en ligne, pour maintenir les services scolaires, pour que les élèves n'abandonnent pas l'école. Donc nous avons dû améliorer nos infrastructures et l'accès de celles-ci. Mais la question est, maintenant, nous, les villes et les régions, est-ce que c'est la technologie qui va nous définir la voie à suivre ou c'est nous qui devons la guider? C'est ça, à mon avis, la question à laquelle nous devons répondre aujourd'hui. Je pense que la technologie elle doit servir à combattre les disparités qu'il y a sociales, à être au service de l'être humain et du citoyen, plus qu'autre chose. Et au plus, nous devons compter sur plusieurs secteurs. Un secteur seul ne suffit pas pour suivre. Il faut le secteur privé, le secteur public. Il faut bien maîtriser la voie et tracer une voie pour l'intérêt du citoyen, pour la fourniture des soins. Donc c'est ce qu'on essaie de faire dans le réseau de villes pour accompagner toutes les autorités locales et régionales et s'adapter au nouveau monde. Au nouveau monde pour assurer l'égalité, pour assurer la durabilité. On est sorti de la COP26, il y a des avancées, mais il reste beaucoup à faire. Nous, au CGLU, nous avons lancé le pacte pour l'avenir, pour la planète, pour les citoyens et pour le gouvernement. Voilà.
Merci, merci, Monsieur le Président. Un domaine très intéressant. Hein? Is technology going to shape us, or are we going to shape technology? And how is our world going to look in the future? What kind of common agenda do we need to define? The United Nations Secretary General has just released a report. He calls it the Common Agenda. We, as representatives of local and regional government constituency, our organization, United Cities and Local Governments, has provided inputs to that report. And the Secretary General of the United Nations is certain that the local level and local service provision will play a very critical role in the future. Minister, newly minister, previously mayor, once a mayor, always a mayor, believe me. Mayor of Polokwane, South Africa, a very clear reality, very tough. COVID has been difficult.
Yes.
It has hit you hard.
Very much.
You have put in place from the local level, but also from the national level, many new services, service provision. Two questions. How important has the role been of technology? And do you think that some of the services that have been put in place for the emergency need to remain after the emergency? Floor to you, Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Emilia, and I do agree with you. One silver lining of COVID, at least in South Africa, maybe in other countries it could be slightly different, was how we were forced as government department to collaborate. Yes, we have always had an IGR forum, which is intergovernmental relations framework, which by design wants department to cooperate and work together. But it has just been a paper that has been there, enshrined, kept, and not really practicalized, departments continuing to work in silos. But boom, landed COVID one day. It needed the health ministry, it needed municipalities, it needed social services for the payments of grants and pensions to extra qualifying people. It needed Department of Labor for people who are laid off work for their own benefits to be set up in place. It needed mobile services, where areas where post office or a government service is not closer. And those buses, firstly, had to be digitized. Secondly, had to have access to all languages of ordinary people to be able to utilize the system. It forced access to data. How do you make sure that people have got data in a right way? But it also forced us to look into inequalities, which one were brought by apartheid, but which in one way or the other, as government for the past 27 years, have not been able to close the gap. Transportation from one area to the other with social distancing, space and a mask, people do not have, and yet you want them to go and receive a particular service. And such coordination must happen. We've seen, for example, a Ministry of Home Affairs, the bus which used now to go to people if they want to register their newborn children, if they want to register for whatever government service, it used to go there. You can't say now COVID is over and now we lift that service up. Go back to a tuk-tuk, a small transport that you have been using to take you from point A to point B, which means we have got now to make COVID-sensitive budgets the word may no longer be COVID, but how COVID has enforced us to care for our nations. You need to put that remaining in place, but also putting additional. So people can go and file for their tax online as well. Mostly they used to queue, but there was a online system that was speeded up and introduced to make sure that you achieve that. But the critical question as well is, how do we link such victories to smart cities? And that's what has been a thought about this session for the past 3 days, to ensure that we minimize and maximize, rather, the territories, make them smaller, compact them, make them user-friendly, accessible to everybody, because we are the heartbeat of the people. We are closer to the people that we are servicing. The message comes to local government first than it does to central government for participation. So I think that element is also very much important.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. Indeed, it's very difficult to define, when a crisis ends,
Yes.
when these emergencies end. And we are living with so many emergencies that are overlapping, right? We have the climate emergency,
Yes.
we have the health emergency, but we also have other emergencies that we have not described as such as the housing emergency.
Yes.
Or the inequality emergency.
Yes.
If we would only recognize that as emergency, what type of different governance would we need? What are the priorities? The mayor of Sala from Sweden, Carola Gunnarsson, our vice president for Europe. What is this crisis meaning in terms of a smart society in a country which everybody defines as hyper-connected, rich, accessible? How much of a reality is that? How are the elderly dealing with this new reality? And what are you facing at the municipalities level?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about digitalization and smart cities and the future for our societies. We have talked a lot about climate change, and I'm convinced that one of the cornerstones to meet climate change, but also other challenges in our society, it is digitalization and technical innovation. We can use this tool to reduce our environmental impact and achieve environmental goals, both locally, nationally, and globally. And during the pandemic, we have seen development of the digitalization. But to relaunch the society after this pandemic, I think it's important that new technology need to be lifted and promoted. I think digitalization is absolutely crucial for organizations to meet external changes, harness technological development, and create more value. But we need to take into account the gender perspective. The focus needs to be on concrete policy actions fostering women's and girls' full participation and inclusion in the digital revolution. To build sustainable societies, we need to overbridge the gender equality gaps in technology. And you ask how the situation is in Sweden, and I would like to say that if you all in this room visit this Smart City Expo here in Barcelona, it's exceptional, it's wonderful to see all this. But if you also visit other expos around the world, then you must ask yourself one question, and the question is, how many women are the technical staff in this expo, and how many men are serving coffee in this expo? Yeah. I think it's you really need to, when you walk around, take a thought about the future, because digital technologies can provide new opportunities for women's empowerment, but technology on its own can't address the systematic problems driving the digital gender divide. It's the same as at the decision table. We must take into account the whole society. We can't only have men that are developing innovations and technical aids. And this must start early, already in the preschools and schools. And that's our mission as local politicians. We need to give girls and boys the same opportunities to develop technical skills. So that's one of the things I think is very important for the future, for digitalization in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carola. You know that I was listening to Pilar Conesa yesterday, and she was announcing that for the first time there are more women than men as speakers in this conference. We are making progress. But it needs to change in the rest of the departments, right? We need to make that happen. We need to make that happen. And you know, local governments, we have a role in that. Yes. And that's why we are pillars for development in the common agenda. There cannot be a global agenda if you don't own it locally. And this is what we're here to tell you, that there are roles that we can play here. We're going to a different part of the world. We're going to Tunis. We have had the Arab Spring starting in Tunis. We have a little bit of an autumn going on, we were saying. We need, but there is courage and there is hope. And, you know, we hope as local governments that very soon we will be able to have a citizenship that is not linked to countries and that is a citizenship beyond borders. Your priority, the first female mayor of Tunis. Welcome, Madame Souad.
Bien sûr. Oui, merci beaucoup, Emilia. Et je remercie aussi ces élus pour cette aimable invitation et de pouvoir participer avec les responsables de l'écosystème sur ce fameux sujet, la numérisation. Et surtout, j'attire l'attention sur la relation numérisation-femme, qui n'est pas très favorable. D'ailleurs, la période de la pandémie nous a convaincus combien nous avons besoin de cette technologie pour développer nos services et pour rendre service à nos concitoyens. Monsieur Boudra m'a dit, nous avons les citoyens, mais nous n'avons pas les moyens. Alors, nous devons travailler pour avoir ces moyens. Et c'est pour cela que dans le cadre de la coopération, nous avons pu aussi aménager notre municipalité par des outils de travail à distance pour pouvoir donner, pour faire service et donner service à nos concitoyens. D'ailleurs, on est en train de faire le nécessaire et faire les entretiens nécessaires pour nos fonctionnaires aussi, pour remettre un peu le niveau de nos agents pour pouvoir travailler à distance et rendre service. Aussi, dans le cadre de cette relation femme numérique, nous aussi, on est responsables, chers collègues. Nous avons cette culture un peu au profit des hommes, pas des femmes. Là, il faut insister sur le travail. Donc, nous devons travailler sur cette relation femme-numérisation. Dans ce cadre, nous avons lancé aussi un projet Femmes Médina avec l'USAID. Et au sein de ce projet, un de ses axes, c'est avoir une plateforme numérique au profit des femmes artisanes pour pouvoir les impliquer directement et dans le cadre du renforcement des capacités des femmes. Donc c'est là la numérisation au profit des femmes que nous devons travailler là-dessus. Il y en a plusieurs projets qui concernent la ville. Par exemple, un autre projet qui me tient à cœur et aussi ça concerne un petit peu les femmes. C'est une réflexion approfondie sur la mise en place d'un système BRT, bus rapide transit, et dont nous devons attirer l'attention sur ce côté genre qui est normalement, qui doit être bien cisé. Un autre projet aussi dans le cadre de Smart City, on est en train de le développer. Je souhaite évoquer le projet de la Perle du Lac. Il s'agit d'un projet de réaménagement urbain qui permet une extension bien réfléchie de la ville. Ce projet est en train de se concrétiser sur des bases solides, notamment en veillant au respect de la dimension environnementale, mais aussi en jetant les bases de la ville intelligente. Ceci se fera à partir d'applications performantes et modernes qui nous permettront de mieux gérer les différentes composantes urbaines et de ce nouveau quartier, ainsi la mobilité, la propreté, les parkings, l'éclairage public seront totalement numérisés. Aussi, un autre sujet qui me tient à cœur, c'est l'amélioration de la gestion locale pour garantir plus de transparence et pour lutter contre tout risque de corruption. Ce projet a démarré par une mission d'expertise qui a débouché sur un état de diagnostic de tous les services municipaux par rapport à la norme ISO 37001. Notre objectif est de mettre en place un manuel de procédures claires et précis et d'activer la numérisation de nos services. Cette numérisation, tant convoitée, se concrétise rapidement dans le cadre de notre projet inventaire et valorisation et numérisation du patrimoine. Et aussi à travers un projet, c'est l'étude stratégique de la femme de la ville de Tunis dans un de ces axes femmes Médina. Donc, on attire l'attention sur l'importance de la numérisation tout en garantissant aussi l'égalité des chances. Parce que lors de la pandémie, pendant la pandémie Covid-19, presque les services étaient à distance, quelques services culturels, scolaires, mais est-ce que tous les élèves ont pu accéder à ce service ou pas? C'est là où j'attire l'attention.
Merci, Madame la Maire. We always say that when you support women, you are supporting the whole of the community. And so focusing on the empowerment of women also around digital tools is very, very critical to advance this new kind of society and the definition of the new type of essentials, of the new type of local service provision that we need to define towards the future. And we've got with us the mayor of Kitchener, one of the largest cities also in Canada, one of the big ones. Another reality, a very large country, very rural with very big cities as well, fairly connected. Mayor, what are the concerns for you as we advance in this new global reality?
Thanks, Emilia, Senor and Senoras. It's a real pleasure to be here as part of the 10th anniversary of the Smart City Expo in Barcelona on the sidelines of our UCLG World Council. The city of Kitchener, in fact, is the largest intermediary city of approximately 270,000 people in a region of 630,000. And it's a city that's traditionally been built on a strong industrial and manufacturing base where we've reinvented ourselves over the past 20 plus years. And today, if I can change slides, is on the western end of the Toronto-Waterloo Region Innovation Corridor, sometimes called Canada's Silicon Valley, and ranked globally with other innovation corridors like San Francisco, San Jose in the USA, London to Cambridge in the USA, Tel Aviv to Haifa in Israel, and of course what's happening right here in Barcelona. Our city was once home to global brands such as Uniroyal Tires and Kodiak Boots, and today our city and region is known for being home to many technology and innovation-focused enterprises, ranging from Canadian companies such as BlackBerry's global headquarters and Myovision, which is a traffic management hardware company that many of you may be using, to the Canadian home of global giants such as Google's Canadian engineering headquarters with over 1,300 staff, Shopify, Square, and others. As someone with a professional background in IT and having been exposed to the leadership of cities like Barcelona through my UCLG work, I learned early on the importance of a city like ours to develop a vision for a city's transformation in terms of innovation and technology to move forward as a smart city. And so we developed a digital strategy for Kitchener that takes a people's first approach to technology through 4 key principles: connected, inclusive, on-demand, and innovative. Being a smart city means investing in technology with purpose and impact within our own municipality. It means focusing on exploring how we can improve the lives of citizens and how we might use technology to make it happen within our own operations. We take a human-centered approach to understand the problem we're trying to solve. We engage early, we experiment, we test new ideas, we listen to feedback, and we iterate until we get it right. Being a smart city also means a deliberate focus to collaboration, both collaborating with technology companies in your area to support them in their growth and piloting of new technologies, as well as investing in the economic development that investment in technology and innovation brings, including smart city clusters, which are so critical in building a complete ecosystem within your city. It's why 15 years ago we created an economic development investment fund which supported initial investments in transforming our local economy, and why last November my council approved a new $110 million Make It Kitchener fund, which is focused on our city's COVID-19 economic recovery and our desire to use technology to build back better post-pandemic. It's why our first investment in that fund, in fact, was $8.5 million to the University of Waterloo, leveraging $10 million from the Government of Canada to create a health innovation arena, which will be home to upwards of 125 companies focused on health tech and med tech, startups and scale-ups employing 800 plus people. And being a smart city means supporting our regional technology enabling organization, Communitech, which brings together the private sector with our national, provincial, and local spheres of government, academia, and the not-for-profit sector to create a technology ecosystem focused on tech for good, a theme adopted throughout our region focusing on how technology can be used for good to build better homes, better communities, better nations, to build better lives. Colleagues, technology and innovation has become a key part of Kitchener and Waterloo region's DNA. Technology and innovation has given us the tools which allow us to build smart cities. Smart cities focus in their commitments to deliver on localizing the Sustainable Development Goals. In smart cities where technology and innovation help build a Tech for Good foundation, which our community is built upon, and that will allow us to build a great community where people can live, work, and play. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Mayor, for sharing with us the story of Kitchener around this topic. And you have been all very good with time, and so we're going to have the opportunity for a last round. I am going to give the floor to the Vice Mayor of Quito first, but think about this question that I'm going to ask you for the last round. So the Great Reset. What is next for your community? What do you see the priority to be like? What is the reset, the build back better, the recovery? What would it entail? Think about it, and we'll come back to you. But now I'm going to Quito. Qué placer. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros, alcaldesa. Un gusto siempre verla. Gissela, Chalá. Nosotros siempre hablamos mucho de cuidados cuando nos vemos, ¿verdad? Porque para nosotros la transformación que ha tenido lugar a raíz de esta crisis que estamos viviendo, esta crisis sanitaria grave y universal, nos ha hecho comprender que ya no podemos seguir hablando de simplemente servicios, sino de cuidados. Y si cambias la perspectiva y miras los servicios públicos como cuidados, aparecen prioridades diferentes, grupos que merecen atención especial. No sé cómo se relaciona esto con la agenda de las ciudades inteligentes, Gissela, pero yo estoy segura de que nos lo vas a contar.
Gracias. Buenos días a CGLU. Quiero dar un agradecimiento desde Latinoamérica por invitarnos a estos espacios de reflexión, pero también de compromiso. Quiero hablar de cómo estas ciudades inteligentes pueden ayudarnos a todos y todas, a la sociedad entera, para disminuir la brecha de desigualdad e inequidad entre lo urbano y lo rural. Con eso quiero hacer un reconocimiento a los más perdedores de la pandemia, el sector rural, las mujeres rurales a las cuales represento. En Ecuador tenemos 1.499 parroquias a nivel nacional. De esas, 1.140 son rurales y de esas, 33 están en mi querido Distrito Metropolitano de Quito. Lo que significa que quienes están viviendo allí, la tecnología durante la pandemia, pero también históricamente lo que ha hecho es excluir, generar privilegios, vulnerar derechos. Dentro de esta dinámica tan cruel que fue la COVID-19, quédate en casa, pero ¿cómo es tu casa? ¿Cómo están las casas de la ruralidad? Teleeducación, pero la teleeducación solo con recursos, porque cerraron los infocentros, que era política pública, donde nuestros niños, niñas y adolescentes podían ser parte de este proceso. Por lo tanto, con estas deudas históricas y estas deudas sociales, las ciudades inteligentes no van a tener que otro remedio y la obligación de cumplir con esto en torno a la reivindicación, reparación y restitución de derechos. Existen grandes desafíos y con ellas el cumplimiento de derechos individuales, pero también derechos colectivos. Estos derechos colectivos que reconocen y que generan una serie de desafíos para poder ponerlos en práctica. La tecnología como herramienta para mejorar la calidad de vida de todos y todas en torno a los servicios. Necesitamos levantar información, no tenemos un censo, no tenemos actualización de datos que nos impide, de cierta forma, que la política pública sea real. Por otro lado, necesitamos también información desagregada. Los grupos que decía Emilia, estos grupos de atención prioritaria no cuentan con datos. Necesitamos esta línea base para que la política pública deje de ser una utopía. Con los servicios de inclusión, estas APP que decía el día de ayer, este teléfono que nos debe servir no para desconectarnos, sino también para poder generar estos servicios. APPs que nos puedan alertar cuando hay peligro de violencia, de incesto, de violación, de abuso sexual. Pero estas APPs que también nos acercan a los servicios con rutas de protección, como por ejemplo para los migrantes, que puedan tener una APP gratuita, que vayan a las ciudades y sepan dónde están sus servicios que van a necesitar. Por otro lado, también es fundamental el transporte. ¿Cómo nos acercan a los servicios? ¿Cómo dejamos de ser parte de esa segregación espacial y nos juntan y reparan estos derechos históricamente que quienes son los dueños del suelo nos han generado y nos han desterrado? Para ir concluyendo, esta brecha de lo urbano y lo rural es necesario que pueda contar con la educación. Esta educación que va a permitir que se vayan integrando e insertando los ciudadanos históricamente excluidos, aquellos ciudadanos que pensaban que era de segunda categoría, pasemos a ser una sola, la universal. Por otro lado, quiero concluir, es un compromiso que estoy segura que CGLU y quienes están aquí presentes nos van a apoyar para incidir en los gobiernos. Las voluntades políticas son fundamentales, pero lo más importante, los recursos. No podemos hablar de políticas, de compromisos y acuerdos si no tiene este enfoque de inclusión real, con recursos, con inversión, con programas y políticas públicas de real aplicación. Un gran saludo a todos y todas y espero que de esta forma estas ciudades inteligentes sean lo primordial para poder cumplir con ese buen futuro, ese buen vivir, pero para, sobre todo, ciudades más humanas, como siempre lo he dicho, y quiero cerrar con esto. Cuando las mujeres avanzamos en el camino, el mundo cambia. La invitación es a que todo este mundo cambie con nuestro trabajo. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, vicealcaldesa. Me encanta, me encanta. Nosotros creemos que para ese pacto del futuro, presidente, para la gente, para el pacto para las personas, feminismo. Para el pacto para el planeta, ecologismo. Para el pacto para el gobierno, municipalismo. lo local, ¿no le parece? Ella ha traído al debate esa pregunta que con la que usted comenzaba, ¿no? ¿Nos van a definir las tecnologías o vamos nosotros a definir los APPs, como decía la vicealcaldesa? Una reflexión de un minuto, presidente, para que la prioridad para volver a pensarnos, ¿no? A una nueva normalidad.
Merci, Emilia. Moi, je pense, on le sait, les autorités locales et régionales, les élus locaux, les maires sont les politiciens les plus proches des citoyens. On est d'accord. Donc, on sent bien les disparités, les souffrances des quartiers, des personnes, les inégalités entre femmes et hommes, la jeunesse, les souffrances de la jeunesse. Mais comme elle a dit Souad, il fait défaut parfois les moyens. C'est pour ça qu'il est nécessaire qu'il y ait une gouvernance multiniveau. Il faut que les gouvernements nationaux comprennent bien que les politiques ne peuvent être efficaces et au service des citoyens qu'en tenant compte de ce que disent les municipalités et les conseillers municipaux. Alors, moi, je conçois le monde, les villes intelligentes du futur. C'est-à-dire que le centre de décision soit dans la commune, dans le conseil municipal. Et ce conseil, il ne doit pas rester seul. Il doit s'entourer de tous les acteurs de la ville, les services le privés, l'enseignement, les écoles, la jeunesse, les femmes, la société civile, mais pour tracer une stratégie de ville pour améliorer les conditions de vie des citoyens et progresser. Donc c'est important d'être vraiment le moteur de changement la ville.
Thank you, President. Multi-level governance, co-governance, your priority also within this new digital reality. Vice Minister.
Priorities, I think, must be set by us. The same as we say, should the apps be the ones that lead? No, we should be able to lead on the direction of our digitization, on what will assist our societies who are closer to them. They communicate directly with us. So we have been at the forefront as local and regional governments of providing services to them under difficult circumstances. As we anticipate more pandemics in different forms and shapes, therefore local government should be the one that advances the debate on how our people need to be taken care of. Quite a number of areas have been raised from your human rights point of view, civil society, digitization, and formations of what societies need to be. If you look into that board there's a big handwriting. It says, we are cities we make. So priorities, aspirations of what we want to be will come from the design of the people and the areas of where they come from. For me, therefore, collaboration and learning from one another will be what create a world that cares on what happens beyond the boundaries of where I'm staying, to make sure that you deal with migration from moving from the bad to the best, because you eliminate the bad in all the areas of the globe, and UCLG is best placed to cover that space.
Thank you very much. We have been experiencing, Vice Minister, in this pandemic, and I think that's where you're heading, how the democratic processes have been experienced as confusing, because we didn't know who was deciding what.
Yeah.
The citizens were getting confused. Yes. The priorities were set far away sometimes from the communities. So what you are calling for is that difference, to make it happen from the communities up. And Vice President, when we talked during the Generation Equality Fora, you were stressing how dangerous it was to see a loss of the democratic powers, because in this kind of crisis, authoritarian systems seem to be more effective. Have we lost power? What is next? What is your next priority?
For me, it's very important to highlight the question about democracy, because I think that during the pandemic, we have seen a lot of discussions about centralization. We have seen solutions, people talking about solutions to make it centralized decision-making to make it better for the citizens. And I think it's at the other side. I think the decentralization is the possibility to give influence to the citizens. And we must be very much aware of what is happening. And when talking about digitalization, I hope that we can use digitalization to decrease the gap between people, to decrease the gap between men and women, to decrease the gap between urban and rural areas, because it gives us opportunities, but we must take these opportunities and be aware of what we are doing. Because at the same time as digitalization can be something very, very useful, it can also be very dangerous if we are not following what happens, and if we are not, as politicians, on all the levels of society, take our responsibility, because we are the one who has the responsibility, even when talking about digitalization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President. Madame la maire, votre priorité chez vous?
Merci Emilia. Donc pour nous avons parlé de la transition écologique, de la transition énergétique, aussi on parle maintenant de la transition numérique. Donc, et pour faire cela, il faut avoir une bonne articulation entre le local, le régional et le central. On parle de la décentralisation, oui, mais tout en respectant l'unanimité de l'État. Donc c'est pour cela, pour avoir des projets concrets et pour pouvoir concrétiser ces rêves, cette digitalisation de la ville, de rendre service, faire cette approche, à travers cette approche participative, donc il faut avoir une volonté réelle qui ne peut être concrète qu'après par les billets de partenariat public-privé. Donc nous devons faire appel à cet partenariat, faire de telle sorte que tous nos projets soient pour eux et aussi donc, à travers une approche participative en impliquant tout le monde. Et pour impliquer tout le monde, il faut avoir les moyens.
Merci. Thank you very much. Yeah, when we talk about subsidiarity and decentralization, we are not trying to say that cities should be doing what the states are doing. That would be a great mistake. But I think the division of tasks, of competencies and resources should be different. And also in defining how digitalization should go, this should play a role. What are the priorities? What is next for Kitchener in this sense?
Thanks, Emilia. And I think you're very right in describing this as the Great Reset. And I'd really like to tie some of these threads that we're hearing from my colleagues together. Because I think, first of all, it is about seeing that the role of cities has fundamentally changed during COVID-19. And we've recognized the important role that cities play in delivering services to the residents of our communities. In many countries, the reality is the governance systems within the country, whether it's national or subnational governments in relations to cities, don't support that kind of relationship. And so we need both legislative changes as well as changes in terms of decentralized financing so that municipalities have the financial resources they need in order to deliver a level of service that is expected by our citizens in today's increasingly complex world. I think the other issue that really came to the forefront over the past 2 years has been the issue of equity that my colleague from Quito talked about. You know, in North America, I think of how COVID-19 has impacted indigenous people and people of color, the impact on women and on those who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And so I think coming out of this, as a society, we're recognizing we have to correct wrongs from the past and start bringing a level of equality and of equity amongst all our citizens so that they can all enjoy a better quality of life. And the last point I want to make is, I think the pandemic, as challenging as it has been, has only given us a flavor of what the challenges will be of climate change if we don't deal with it much more aggressively than we have, and if we don't deal with it now. And so I think coming out of COP in Glasgow, for all of us as local leaders and as citizens, we really need to make that a priority.
Thank you. Just a flavor of the crisis, because there will be more to come, and they are overlapping, right?
Yes. That's right.
Alcaldesa, ¿cuáles son las prioridades ahora para, no sé si recuperarnos o reinventarnos, como lo tendríamos que llamar?
Reinventarnos, volver a esa nueva normalidad que excluye, que racializa, que invisibiliza de ninguna manera. Creo que el reto está en reinventarnos. Y cómo, siendo parte de estas ciudades inteligentes y teniendo estas designaciones, no dejamos de ser sensibles. Tenemos que ser mucho más empáticos, mucho más solidarios, y con eso engranar lo técnico. Esas decisiones políticas no pueden ser vistas solo con números, sino pensando en las personas. Esa debe ser nuestra prioridad, las personas, el medio ambiente, cómo nosotros generamos relaciones mucho más armónicas. Creo que la herramienta está en el derecho a la ciudad, los derechos y todos sus enfoques, cómo se materializan, cómo se capitalizan, cómo se materializan y, lo más importante, las reparaciones. Nosotros venimos de historias muy complejas, pero creo que tenemos ahora la oportunidad de reescribir esas historias con las reparaciones, combatiendo las inequidades, las desigualdades, el racismo, el machismo y la discriminación. Creo que ese es nuestro compromiso. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. I hope we have convinced you that local and regional governments have a very strong role to play in reshaping our society and contributing to the global agendas. I think it will be very hard to reach the objectives of the 2030 agenda, of the Sustainable Development Goals, if we don't make sure they are embraced at local level and they are co-constructed with all the actors at neighborhood level. We know best how we want to live, how we want to be happy, and the people that you see here have taken it upon themselves to service, but also to protect the dreams and aspirations of communities. We very much look forward to working with you. The municipal movement is committed to contributing to the common agenda that the United Nations is defining beyond the macro-political interest, but in a people-centered approach. We look forward to continue this discussion in the UCLG Agora, down the road here, and in the coming days. Good luck, and thank you for listening. Thank you.